Oh boy, this thing actually has some kick, and I'm barely over idle. Okay, this way. Oh, this tiller's not intuitive. Ah! Shit. All right, here we go. Oh shit, wow. In 1968, this car, Chuck Miller's fire truck, won the Riddler Award, which is an award given to hot rods and show rods like this. And if you look at this thing, you can see why. It kind of encapsulates all of the fun, exciting things about these show rods in one great little vehicle. It's got standard C-cab type body, which a lot of these things use. It was based on the design of old Model T delivery trucks, and a lot of them use that. And then it was about the theme that really made these things special and different. This one, of course, has a fire truck theme. That's why on the radiator it's got this American La France badge. This was the company that was making fire trucks in the US for decades and decades. We think the headlight buckets probably came from a real American La France fire truck. There's also other fun details. There's a gas tank that's actually a chromed fire extinguisher. So basically you've got a fire extinguisher in the back that's now full of gasoline, which is perfect because it's the exact opposite of what a fire extinguisher should do. It became a fire enhancer. This thing overall looks great. It's got a big 289 cubic inch Ford V8 up front, very little else around it, and it looks fast and crazy, and I think driving it is going to be absolutely bonkers. So I guess let's find out. Okay, so I'm here inside the 1968 fire truck show rod, and I'm really excited to drive this thing, and I'm also a little nervous. It's really awkwardly set up to drive. In fact, I read the auction description for this thing last night, and it pretty much said like not intended for street or track use at all. So just driving it all is going to be a little bit weird. When your foot's on the clutch and your leg is pretty much always in the way of where this tiller is going, and you tend to have to move it around a fair amount, so you're always going to be hitting your leg, and I'm not even all that big and it's getting in the way. It's got a pretty grabby throttle, and the throttle pedal is this huge, weird, ogre foot-shaped pedal thing that's kind of pivoting in the middle, and it's pretty sensitive. You can see I move it, it moves the throttle, and this engine, well, it's the supercharger's fake. It's still no joke. I mean, I've driven sketchy things before, but they've been sketchy things with like 5 horsepower. Never anything exactly like this. Visibility to the sides is none because there's no windows. You can sort of lean forward and peek out. So this is going to be a lot of fun, I think, and I'm excited to give it a try. I may have to use my hand to give it a little throttle. All right, and here we go. Oh boy, this thing actually has some kick, and I'm barely over idle. Okay, this way. Oh, this tiller's not intuitive. Ah! Shit. All right, here we go. And boy, this tiller hits every leg I've got. I feel like I have 30 legs on this thing. Oh, geez. When you're in second, your leg is actually pinned between the tiller and the gear shift. All right, I'm not gonna lie. This is extremely difficult. And even idling in second, this thing is picking up what feels like a lot of speed. I don't think it is, but it sure as hell feels like it. Man, I've driven some really sketchy cars before, the Hoffman, and all kinds of crazy micro cars and the Peel, but I've never had one that's actually got any power. Like in the other ones, they can be sketchy and you just kind of deal, because there's not going to really be enough power to make any trouble. This one is nothing but trouble. So I see what they're saying when they say it was never really intended to be driven, because this is barely drivable. There's first. Am I clear? Yeah, I can't. Yeah, you can't. Okay, there we go. I'm clear. There we go. There we go. All right. My God. If this thing cost $2 grand, I would have a blast in this thing. But it doesn't. It's a work of art. It's a rolling work of art. There we go. Whoa, listen to that thing. And so any mistake I make is terrifying just from the perspective of what cost it would have. I don't know who would be good at this. You'd have to have, maybe if you had a trained octopus that didn't have bones in its legs. This is definitely a car better driven by a tentacled being. So you wouldn't have this problem. So something with tentacles to operate the pedals, and multiple tentacles. You'd want one for every pedal and this ridiculous shifter, and then a separate tentacle for the tiller. Wealthy tentacled being. Appreciation for mid-century Hollywood. Some sort of very successful squid or octopus. Maybe grew up in the 60s, made his money in, real estate. Underwater real estate, I'm imagining. All right, now I'm gonna go up a driveway, which, seems like a small thing to most folks, but I don't think it is a small thing here, because it's gonna require a little throttle, and I don't wanna launch myself like a rocket. Let's see here. Up. There we go. There we go. Well, that was amazing and terrifying and wonderful and harrowing all at once. As we were doing that short little drive, we actually worked a kingpin loose and the thing almost overheated. So when they say that this thing was never really meant for street or track driving, they absolutely were not kidding. That's 100% true. This is really barely drivable. It's a sculpture that you can barely drive. I also want to make sure we thank Dave Shutton, who's the mad genius who keeps all these things running. He's also building his own show rods and doing all kinds of amazing work. And throughout this whole process, he never once tried to stab me with a sharpened screwdriver, even though I was breaking all his amazing toys. So I really appreciate that. I also appreciate the guy who built this, because he actually drove this thing, I'm told, from Michigan to Kentucky on regular roads, which after driving it for 10 minutes seems insane. I'm just happy I don't have to drive it anymore, but I had a great time while I was doing it. Ready?
Yeah. Like that, yeah. That's very good. Nice, and yeah, just get a little without you, so then you take a step back.